Hello there, RJB here again with another game brought to you by me. So I got a bunch of replays from a Korean friend of mine, and I've been digging through these replays, and then I bumped into a replay, chat the name Light in it. And Light is playing the Terran at spot number 1 against E.Hazard, who's playing Protoss on spot number 3. And I don't know if this is the real deal, if it's really Light, or if it's someone impersonating to be Light. We'll just have to see, but I've got a feeling that this might be a very exciting match because I have seen a replay of E.Hazard before, and he's a really solid Protoss player, a really solid Terran player, solid all around, and he starts off with a 8-9 pylon as is standard, and Light starts off with a gas and a depot. So this is how you start with a mech build. Start off with a gas and a depot at the same time, followed by a barrack just before the depot finishes. Never mind, he's going to use this one for the barrack. There's a little bit of overmine. And there he goes, constructs the barrack right next to the depot. The gas finishes up, he's going to pull 2 SCVs off and put them on the gas. Meanwhile, E.Hazard has started with 2 gateways and the pylon that is choke, so he's planning on choking up. Usually you will see this exact build, you will see them doing 2 gateways, a nexus, once they get 400 minerals, then a forge, and he will start making his choke. And he's scouting, he scouted spot number 5, didn't get any results, he's scouting the wrong way, so that might prove to be in the advantage of Light, because this is a very risky build for Light. It requires top-notch micro, and a single micro mistake can end up costing him the game within the first 5 or so minutes. There he starts a factory, another factory, 2 factories started, and he might pull some SCVs off of his gas. That's something that some Koreans do. They pull SCVs off the gas to boost their mineral income a bit, but Light elects not to do so. He makes a depot, makes a single marine, does not make a bunker. Some Koreans like to make bunkers right here to cover this entire area to defend against rushes. But Light is not one of those people. And actually, yes, there comes the bunker because he saw the Zealot walking into his base with his SCV. And Light, now I've noticed that, he has now knows that Light is on spot number 12 or 1, but he scouts him at spot number 1. 2 marines are out, 2 marines bravely fighting off the Zealot. And as you can see here, the Nexus, 2 gas, cybernetics core, a forge, and he is not making a cannon at his choke. He instead decides not to do that. And here, 2 marines and the 2 zealots staring at each other while vultures are being constructed in the factories of Light. And there's a supply depots being made. There's a starport being made by Light. And he's still on 3 SCVs, mining gas. And he's microing his vultures. He's microing pretty well, doing damage against the zealots. The zealots unable to return any damage at all. And there he goes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Micros himself very nicely, circling around the zealots. Perfect micro, perfect vulture control. This might in fact just be Light himself. I'm not too sure. This is very beautiful control. He's spending while microing. There's he added 2 machine shops, producing 2 tanks. Has not started siege mode yet. He's going to make a depot. No, he's not going to make a depot. He pulls the SCV to his choke. He repairs both vultures. It's a very nice move. Meanwhile, E.Hazard has started the cannon at his choke, robotic facility in his base. He's mining on 2 gas. There's 4 gateways. He's bumping Dragoon from 2 gateways, and he's starting Dragoon range in his cybernetics core. And there's 2 Dragoons have scouted his choke, but decide to pull away as he sees the 2 tanks, and he probably assumes that siege mode is already finished. But siege mode has just started upgrading. The mines are about to finish, and he's making 2 more depots as a wall on his choke. He's got 4 vultures, 2 tanks. He's got 4 marines inside the bunker. He blocks the choke off with a barrack. And there's the dropship, picks up 2 tanks, and siege mode has not yet finished, but he decides to land the tanks on the wall. It's a very, very abusive move. It basically creates this entire zone around him, this entire zone right here, that Light now has control over. Let's zoom back in. So he moves the tanks to the choke, blocks out the choke, and we can fire those cannons down. He's gonna wait with these vultures, he's gonna do the finishing move, and put some mines down immediately after. We'll then fly more units in. There's another tank, another vulture. He's gonna put some mines down and force E.Hazard to be zoned off from attacking these tanks. E.Hazard is not sure if he's in panicking mode, but he's handling this pretty well. He pulls his dragoons back, still upgrading dragoon range. There's an observer route. He planned that really well. He knew that mines were coming, and Light has started to control and push inside inside E.Hazard's base. Pulls down the vultures, and he's focusing down. Ooh, he's microing this so well. Even though it might be a bit of unnecessary micro, more mines coming down, cannon is going down. He has 3 Dark Templars in production, and Light does not have an engineering bay yet, not have a science facility yet, does not have a scan yet, but these mines might just prove enough to hold the Dark Templars back once they finish. He's started shuttle speed, there's no Reaver in production, still on 9 Dragoons, which is definitely not enough to fight against this. And there goes Dark Templar. There's no mine around the Dark Templar. There's 2 Wraiths coming in, killing the shuttle. There's a Dark Templar in there. He manages to unload the Dark Templar. He kills the tank, and there's 2 tanks firing, trying to fire on the probes, and he kills a bunch of probes. I didn't exactly see how many probes he killed, but he killed a bunch of them. Ooh. This is a very exciting back and forth match. There's mines, and the Dark Templar goes down to the mines, but 2 Marines also die to the mines. And Light is forced to retreat. He puts some mines down to buy himself some time against Dragoons. He lifts up a tank and a vulture to bring them home. He doesn't land them on the hill, he lands them on the opposite hill instead. There, it's safe from the Dragoons, and it works as a deterrent for E.Hazard, so E.Hazard can't just walk in there, but there's a tank protecting him. So Light is now on 3 command centers, 4 factories, adding another factory. He's making more raids. Does he have Cloak? I didn't see if he got Cloak. And E.Hazard is finishing Zealot Lags, shuttle speed, and has started Psionic Storm. He's gonna fly that shuttle in, drops 2 Dark Templars, there's no scans, and the turret hasn't finished yet. Oh, this might prove to be very problematic for... Well, there's a turret that is as a main CC, so that is at least safe. Starport is not safe. He puts some mines down to corner the Dark Templars in, but it doesn't... Dark Templars just ignore it completely and just keep attacking. Oh no, he's gonna go for the turret. Yes, he goes for the turret. This Dark Templar defends the turret. This Dark Templar also defends the turret. He just keeps hammering down. He lifts off the starport. He keeps the Wraiths in the vicinity. And the Dark Templar is too scared to move around. It's on a single hit left, and it dies to a mine. Another Dark Templar also going to die to the mine. Nope, it survives. There's a shuttle flying in. There's a Templar, and the Templar storms, and the Templar gets 15 SCV kills. Light didn't manage to kill the shuttle in time, and E.Hazard unloaded the shuttle in time and stormed and had a really good hit on Light's economy. Light has 3 CC, so he might be able to rebuild this. However, E.Hazard is way ahead of him with 136 supply against 93 supply, and he's massing up really slowly, making Dragoons, slowly clearing out mines around his base with the observers, or sometimes just walking his units into mines by accident because the mines are still there. And he's adding more gateways. He has 6 gateways, 10 gateways, another 6, 12 gateways, from which he can produce in a little bit. He's making more observers, shuttles, and there's no Templars being produced. Meanwhile, Light is trying to recover from losing 15 SCVs. He lands his starport back on the ground. He has not started the science facility yet, so he cannot detect But as of now, he doesn't need it because he's got a lot of turrets around his base. I am curious to see what Light will do. In the meantime, E.Hazard has constructed pylons, his vision on the bottom side of his base against drops, and Light tried to fly a drop in, but pylons see it, and he gives up on the drop and decides to kill the pylons instead, and E.Hazard sends his dragoons over to kill those tanks. And while that was happening, Light lifted up a tank with a dropship onto the hill, put a nice line of mines in front of it to protect the tank, but the tank still dies to E.Hazard lifting up some dragoons and putting them down onto the tanks on the hill. And E.Hazard is successfully breaking Light's choke, and Light is a little bit slow on getting units in there. He has 6 tanks firing, a bunch of Goliaths, and a lot of Zealots and Dragoons just keep walking in, and they have no weapon upgrades. There's no upgrades for Light either. Light tries to micro back, but the Zealots just run in, kill the tanks, and stop Light from potentially surviving this attack. And 2 storms coming out. The storms don't do a lot of damage. And Light's almost finishing a weapon upgrade. And he has also almost finishing a light upgrade, weapon upgrade. Light's also almost finishing Wraith Cloak. And Light is losing units very fast. He tries to put mines down to buy himself time and kill the Zealots, but the Zealots are not falling for the tricks. But he does manage to fight off this wave, but there's another wave coming in from all of these gateways that E.Hazard has from which he can produce, and this situation is starting to look very grim for Light. There's a bunch of Dragoons walking in and a Zealot, but the tanks are doing a really good job at killing the Dragoons, and Light quickly constructs 2 barracks to stop E.Hazard from walking into his base and to protect his tanks. Now the Dragoons have to fire down the barracks first and clear the wall, and Light buys himself a little bit more time yet again, but another wave of Zealots and Dragoons comes walking in. There's about 20 of Dragoons and Zealots that are ready to pound at Light's wall of defenses. The Zealots walk through, a couple Zealots walk through, but not a lot of them walk through, and that tank is going to die to the Dragoons. He puts a bunch of mines down, but the mines die before they can dig themselves into the ground. The Archon does a lot of damage on the Vultures. Tanks still doing damage to the Dragoons, and there's more Zealots coming in, and the Zealots will just walk right in there. Some die to the mines, but some take mines with them into the tanks, and the tanks are all taken down. There's still a tank on the hill, but a tank on the hill will not be enough to fight off these Zealots, and the Zealots clear out all the Goliaths and the Vultures and the tanks on the ground. More Vultures spawn, and Light tries to micro his Vultures, tries to place new mines down, but there's simply too many Zealots in the fray for these Zealots and Wraiths to defend against. And there comes Storm on the Wraiths, but he dodges the Storm again, dodges another Storm, but he takes a lot of damage on his Wraiths. And it honestly looks like there's just too much production coming from E.Hazard for Light to defend against. There's even Scarab damage coming, and all the ground upgrades are almost finished for E.Hazard. And even though Light does have Arc Light Cannon upgrade, ground tank upgrade damage, will not be enough to defend himself against these waves and waves of Zealots and Dragoons and Reavers. Just keep killing his units. He's unable to keep expanding his base. He's only on a 6 factory pump. He's unable to defend. He lost a bunch of his SCVs. He had to pull them, the rest off of his minerals, pull them to safety, and he realizes that the game is no longer salvageable, and he has lost the game to E.Hazard. It was a very exciting game by both of them, and I think the game came down to that storm drop that cost Light 15 SCVs. You would have been able to have a bigger base, have more production up if he had those 15 SCVs still. And I think he played a little bit too greedy. Playing greedy is a smart move sometimes, and it almost paid off for Light when he had those tanks right here ready to fire on the probes of E.Hazard, but he only got a couple of probes instead of all of them. If he had gotten all of them, he would have won the game immediately. If he had gotten half of them, he would have won the game immediately. But he only got about 10 or so, And for Protoss, that's way less punishing because the ability to rebound and just make zealots, like you can pull your probes off the gas and put them on the minerals, then you can just produce zealots. And he already had, in his case, he produced Dragoons and he went for Dark Templars and a drop. But there's a lot of things you can do to come back as a Protoss. He already had an observatory, he already had an observer route, so he could snipe down the mines. The mines were less of a threat. But all in all, really good comeback from E.Hazard, and a little bit of an unlucky game for Light. It was a very exciting match, a lot of micro on display, and I loved this game. I hope you loved it too. I hope you liked the commentary, and I'm tapping out. Goodbye.